Greetings, traders, and thank you for joining with me today for this brief presentation on my HyperScalp indicator. This is Mohan here. I developed HyperScalp a couple of years ago, and it's been one of my best sellers, and the reason is it works incredible. If you can use it as a standalone indicator, or especially in conjunction with my Boomerang Day Trader, you will get astounding results of crystal clear clarity in your trading. You'll be quite pleased to see how well it works, and I'm going to go over that with you today. This is the page of my blog where you can purchase HyperScalp. It's only $195, and like I said, can be used on any chart, whether a plain chart or with Boomerang or with your other indicators, and you'll find it'll really complement and enhance whatever it is that you're doing in your trading. So first of all, I've got a Boomerang chart up here, and this is the HyperScalp indicator down here. I've slightly condensed the Boomerang indicators just for the purpose of making sure you can see the HyperScalp indicator as clear as possible. That's what we're going to focus on. We also have our Bias Index 1 and Bias Index 2 indicators here, but I just want you to focus down here today on HyperScalp. If you're a Boomerang owner, I'll mention a few things about how to use it in conjunction with the other indicators. But the main thing is to just watch HyperScalp down here. HyperScalp, I designed it to do this. It's not exactly for giving a trade signal, although you'll find a lot of clear trade signals with HyperScalp. It was mainly designed to read the precision movements of the market as the market is progressing. So I'll be going over some examples, and this is just going to be about a short 15-minute video, so it'll be very easy to watch and review again. First of all, with HyperScalp, you have the green dots along the signal line, and then you have the extension histograms here, which tell you when prices are peaking. So if you get in a trade, for example, on Boomerang down here, you'll know exactly when that trade is peaking by watching HyperScalp. Here's the first extended leap here. You can see this. I'll start using a cursor in a minute, but I want to start by just using this pointer. And then it gets like all trades, they'll pull back and usually consolidate a little. Then you'll get a second leap. And you see the second leap here with HyperScalp. Now, of the most important note here is that one of the main values of HyperScalp is its use in what's called divergence. You may have heard of divergence before, or you may be an expert in it. But I can practically assure you that you will not find a more precision reading instrument for divergence than HyperScalp. You can see here the first thrust went to this level, and the second level, the thrust went up here, but notice that the histograms were lighter. That tells you to look for a reversal. I'm going to have to say, I love my the crosshairs here. They're really helpful. So let me switch over to that real quick. So I'm switching to crosshair. So you can see here is the first thrust measured on the HyperScalp, and we're using a 5-point line as an exhaustion level, and also a 2-point line. Same on the downside, a -2 point and a -5. Now watch what happens here. As the market moves up in thrust, it hits the exhaustion level here. There's a minor pullback, and then that second thrust, you can see from my cursor on the top of this one that this is lower. That is crystal clear divergence hitting the exhaustion level again. On the next off-color green, you can see the market now goes, it's starting to resist the upside move, and it goes into a downside pressure move here until it goes all the way down to the first level exhaustion on the low here. Do you see that? So theoretically, had you traded, noticing the divergence, and then taking the trade on the off-color move here, which is a sign that the market's starting to weaken, you would have had a nice trade from 41.71 down to 41.60, a huge move for NASDAQ, a 10-point move. Now, you can see that they stalled down there and came back up again and wanted to make another move. Well, the reason for that is because the dynamic trend bands here had just crossed over on Boomerang, which is another one of my precision indicators that comes with the Boomerang package. HyperScalp, by the way, is a add-on indicator for additional precision if you want to have that. It's very low cost, like all my indicators. Boomerang's only $11.95, and it's the only system I've ever seen that alerts you in advance of to moves that are going to make a larger scale move. So had you seen this crossover coming, you could have shorted the divergence. That's not a problem. Watched them peak down here, knowing that the market's it's going to make an additional move to the upside in most cases because of the brand new crossover of the dynamic trend bands. So now here's HyperScalp going up again, stretching above the exhaustion level, making a stream move here, and then turning to the off-green color, and it is literally the top candle right there as they proceed to come back down again, and you get the configuration changing on the dynamic trend bands for a stronger downside move. Now, one of the easier ways, or the easiest way I should say, and the recommended way to use HyperScalp is to watch for peak moves and then for the histogram to move under this white 2-period line. That's generally where the real measure of weakness in the market is starting to come in. Notice how when they peaked twice here, and then on this candle, that's when the histogram moved under 2 points, and that's when they started dropping off. See how that works? Similarly, here, the market peaked, and I know HyperScalp caught the top candle here in the peak, but if you had waited to right here where the histogram dropped below the 2-point measure here, you would have had a solid trade moving lower right from that point without any delay. There was no delay on this one, but I'm just saying that's the general rule for catching it. I'll show you why that's good here. Here's an example where they thrust to the downside, but the market still wanted to move higher in spite of there being a matching color and crossover on the dynamic trend bands. So had you waited, here's its peak, and right here, it's at this point is where they're moving above the 2-point line, and that's where the market started really catching support, moving back up again. You see how that works? Even on a small scale right here, they peaked, and then on this candle they dropped down to the 2-point level, and that's where you got the fall off. So you can see how it's giving you an extremely accurate measures of where the market's going intraday. Just this one indicator, peaking right here, moving above the 2-point line right here, and in this case, because of the mix-up in the crossovers and everything, it's just the market flipping around. You might have just wanted to wait for the new green bias dot to change, and then that's where they take them up. And then I've marked a 10-point level here with this orange line showing an extreme thrust. It just means it's a stronger thrust. But same thing here. In a move like this where you got the dynamic trend bands crossing and the market is going to make an extended move, you watch for a third level divergence, which is, look how clear this is. Thrust 1 here, thrust 2 here. Now you can see the divergence coming in, but this market is really strong. So it's going to go a little bit higher here. There's the third thrust right here, and you can see it weakening as that third thrust, although the prices are higher, it's just barely trading at the 2-point level, giving you a crystal clear radical divergence, telling you watch for a stronger opposite move. So what do? You just wait here to the off color green, or wait till the red color changes here on the histogram and the dots along the 0 line. And there comes a stronger move, and indeed it was. And in the same way, you go back and measure it again. Thrust 1, back to the 0 line, thrust 2, showing divergence here. Again, a stronger move, which was forecast by HyperScalp in the last up move. And thrust 3 giving a really strong blast to the downside. And on one like this especially, sure, you could have traded the first off-color red here and caught the bottom, but you're usually better just waiting till you get a crystal clear reading above the 2-point line, which would have been either this or the green dot ideally, and that's where they start rolling back up. And the process just continues. Peak, pull back, peak higher, divergence, and you wait for that move right here under the 2-point level. So the first one was right here. And that's when the market starts falling off. Because if you're trying to fade against this, what do you want? You want it to not thrust higher, and you want it to ideally start to fade lower as quickly as you get in. So that's why you watch for this exact candle to settle here under the 2-point level. When the new candle opens, go ahead and fade that, and it turned red right when it did, and then you got 87 came down to 80, got a 7-point move. See how that works? Sometimes when the market, has exhausted one side, but it tries again, you get a thrust higher moving up. Same thing here, divergence, higher prices, lower histograms, and you can nail it right there and get them going to the downside. Or just like I said, the general best rule is to wait for the move under the 2-point level. You can do this over and over and over, and you'll have a tracking indicator that'll track the exact movements of the market with incredible precision. Add it to Boomerang, and it's just mind-blowing. It's so accurate. I use it every day myself, and I just really love it. So feel free to email me if you have any questions on this, and I'll be glad to explain it more to you if that's what you need. Or you can always feel free to attend my trading room, and I'll show you how to use it live in the markets. So thanks for joining with me today, and I appreciate you watching this video.